Picture two dogs, side by side, performing the exact same task, the same simple command repeated the same number of times. One dog receives a piece of food for completing the task. The other dog receives nothing at all for the identical performance. Within a short number of repetitions, the unrewarded dog begins to refuse. Not because they have forgotten the command, not because they are tired, but because something in their behavior changes the moment the unequal treatment becomes apparent to them. A team of researchers in Vienna designed an experiment specifically to test whether this reaction reflects a genuine sense of fairness, and what they found has become one of the most cited studies in the science of animal social cognition. Welcome to Hidden Paw Signals. I want to begin the way I always do. Everything you hear on this channel comes from my own personal process of reading, studying, and trying to understand the published science behind dog behavior. I am not a veterinarian, researcher, or certified animal behaviorist. This is one person's learning journey through the world of canine cognition, shared with you because the findings genuinely changed how I see my own dog. It is educational content only and is not veterinary or medical advice. If your dog shows persistent refusal to engage in training, increased stress behaviors, or significant behavioral changes, please consult your local veterinarian or a certified professional dog trainer, as these reactions can have multiple causes beyond the specific social context discussed in this research, and a professional can assess your individual dog's situation directly. An important nuance that emerged in later research concerns the role of the human experimenter's identity and consistency. Studies examining inequity aversion in dogs have found that the strength of the response is influenced by the dog's prior relationship and trust in the person administering the reward. Dogs appear to be tracking not simply the mechanical fact of unequal treatment, but the social context surrounding it, including who is responsible for the inequity and what their relationship with that person has been. This adds a layer of sophistication to the finding, suggesting that what is being measured is not a simple reflexive response to material inequality, but something closer to a social evaluation embedded in an ongoing relationship. There is also research examining whether dogs show sensitivity to fairness in contexts involving other dogs they know well, such as housemates, compared to unfamiliar dogs, with some studies suggesting that the relationship between the two dogs involved may moderate the intensity of the inequity response, similar to how human fairness judgments are often shaped by our relationship with the other party involved in a comparison. This connects canine fairness sensitivity to a broader principle observed across social species, that evaluations of equitable treatment do not occur in a vacuum, but are embedded within and shaped by the existing social relationships among the individuals involved. What makes this body of research significant beyond its specific experimental findings is what it suggests about the underlying social cognitive architecture of dogs. The capacity to notice, track, and respond behaviorally to inequitable treatment relative to a social partner requires several cognitive components working together: the ability to observe and remember another individual's outcome, the ability to compare that outcome to one's own, and a motivational response triggered specifically by the comparison rather than by the absolute outcome alone. This is a more sophisticated form of social cognition than simple associative learning, and its presence in dogs adds to a growing body of evidence that canine social intelligence, shaped substantially through the unique demands of living alongside humans, may be considerably more nuanced than earlier behavioral models assumed. This research also has practical relevance for anyone with multiple dogs in their household or trainers working with more than one dog at a time.
The Vienna findings suggest that inconsistent reward practices between dogs in a shared environment are not simply a matter of one dog getting slightly less reinforcement. They may register behaviorally as a recognized inequity that produces measurable stress and disengagement in the dog receiving less, independent of whether that dog's individual reward history would otherwise be considered adequate. Consistency and perceived fairness between dogs sharing a household or training environment appears to matter in a way that is more concrete and more behaviorally consequential than many owners assume. What I find most striking about this research in my own process of learning it is what it implies about the inner life of dogs in social comparison situations most owners never think to examine. A dog watching another dog receive something they did not is not, according to this evidence, simply experiencing the absence of a reward. They appear to be processing a relational fact that they were treated differently than a comparable peer for comparable behavior, and responding to that relational fact with a behavioral and apparent emotional shift that mirrors in striking ways how primates and even young children respond to comparable unfairness. As I always want to close with, everything shared here is part of my own learning process and is offered for education and reflection only. It is not professional veterinary or behavioral advice. If you have any concern about your dog's health or behavior, please consult a qualified local veterinarian who knows your individual dog. No video can replace that relationship. There is a final layer worth reflecting on here. The capacity to notice and respond to unfair treatment is in many respects a foundation of cooperative social life. Species that can detect when an exchange has become lopsided are better equipped to maintain functional, sustainable relationships over time, adjusting their own behavior or expectations in response to how they are being treated. Finding this capacity in dogs, a species whose closest and most consequential relationships are overwhelmingly with humans rather than other dogs, suggests that the same sensitivity that helps maintain fairness between dogs may also be quietly shaping how your dog evaluates the consistency and fairness of their relationship with you, even if neither of you has ever thought about it in exactly those terms. There is also a comparative dimension to this research worth understanding because it connects dogs to a specific evolutionary question researchers have long debated: whether inequity aversion requires the kind of complex, large-scale cooperative social structure seen in primate societies, or whether it can emerge under different evolutionary pressures entirely. Dogs did not evolve their social cognition primarily through complex cooperation with other dogs in the way primates evolved their social cognition through complex troop dynamics. Much of canine social intelligence appears to have developed specifically around the demands of cooperating with and reading humans. The presence of inequity aversion in dogs, demonstrated through Friederike Range's research, suggests that this sensitivity to fairness may be a more general feature of cooperative social cognition than previously assumed, capable of emerging through different evolutionary pathways depending on a given species' particular social ecology. It is worth noting as well how this research has been received and extended within the broader scientific community studying comparative cognition. The original 2008 study prompted a wave of follow-up research, not only in dogs, but in other species, testing for similar inequity responses in everything from birds to other mammals, using the basic experimental paradigm that Friederike Range and her colleagues established. The dog studies are frequently cited as a key data point in this larger comparative literature, precisely because dogs are domesticated, socially embedded in human households, and tested in contexts directly relevant to everyday life with their owners, making the findings unusually easy to translate into practical relevance for the millions of people living alongside dogs, rather than remaining confined to laboratory relevance alone. If this gave you something new to think about regarding your dogs and how you reward them, share it with another multi-dog household. Leave a comment below. Have you ever noticed one of your dogs react to unequal treatment compared to another dog? I want to hear about it. Subscribe if you have not already, and I will see you on the next Hidden Paw Signals.